Hello and a very warm welcome to Bharata First. You're watching Frank Talk with me, Rausan Pereira. Since you're here, I would like to thank you for your continued support. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and then all notifications. Do subscribe to our newsletter to get some incisive content. The Bharata First team runs a big picture quiz. Please participate by going through the description in big picture videos. Well, if you like our content, please contribute to keep it alive. The links are in the description. Let me also take this opportunity to inform you about Bharata First Knowledge Center, an initiative that will help each one of you in your competitive exams and transform the way you learn. Go to kc.bharatafirst.com for more details and register now. Experience a whole new way of gaining knowledge. All this information, along with some must-see recommendations, are in the description of the video. Please go through it. Well, if you like it and are interested in it, there is nothing like history. It is something that can keep you engaged and is very gripping too. But even for those who don't enjoy it, it's very important, as it gives us a window into the past, tells us where we come from, and teaches us lessons for the future. Well, to talk about Indian history, I have with me on the program today Akshay Chavan, co-founder and head of research at Live History India, India's largest digital platform on Indian history. Akshay, welcome to Bharata First.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you for having me here.
Really a pleasure having you on the platform. Let's talk about, Live History India. What is it? What made you go ahead with this project? And what is the idea and what are the principles of Live History India?
So, just to give you a brief background, I am a digital marketer and I'm actually an IT person, but somebody who was very passionate about Indian history since childhood. And I'm really grateful to my parents that in the pre-internet age we would travel across India, visit these monuments from Jhansi to down south in Mysore, Mahabalipuram, and all, and that generated a great deal of curiosity within me. But like most good middle-class Indian boys, taking history as a career was never an option for me. It was generally a passion and an interest. So then I went, I did my master's in IT management. I had a corporate career as a digital marketer for almost a decade. And then you see what happens in corporate life is after a point, you just realize that what am I doing? I mean, what is my purpose and is it going to add to anything? And when I was going through this period of introspection, I met Minnie Menon, who's the editor of Bloomberg India at the time, and she was also equally passionate in history. She did her history from St. Stephen's College in Delhi, and again she had her own corporate career. And then we sat discussing that if we could bring our knowledge of my knowledge of the IT sector, her knowledge of the mass media, and our common passion for history, and take it to the masses. You see, in India, the whole problem with history is it is either these ivory tower academics and historians who are doing some great work on history, and a majority of Indian people who sadly are consuming history through the University of WhatsApp. And there was no one who was telling true, well-researched, curated history in a fun, easy to understand way to the people. I mean, history, the first thing, when you talk to anybody about history, they say, "Arey, history is so boring, history is so boring." But history is not boring. It is one of the most fascinating things that you can possibly come across. And it is connected with your identity, each person's identity. I mean, what I am or what you are is a culmination of 4,000 years of Indian history, what we read, what we wear. So that is how this idea of Live History India came about. So the name Live History comes from living history. We are living our past even today. And that is what makes us so unique as Indians.
That's an incredible story. And yeah, you very rightly pointed out, it's very important for us to know where we come from, who our ancestors are, what is it that this land has given us, what is it that this land has provided us, because that prepares us better for the future. Now, talking about digital history, are there takers really as far as a digital audience is concerned? Akshay, how has that journey been? Do people consume history through digital platforms?
So when we started, since we were in 2017, we were the pioneers, and when we opened our YouTube channel and our Instagram account and all, I mean, there was very little history being shared on these social media platforms, but there was a voracious appetite, because you see, the thing is, our history is so fascinating that uh, it's beyond belief, like how shampoo came about, like as simple as that, how shampoo came about, or what were people eating during the Mauryan times, or something like that. I mean, and you want to consume history, it's, so we look at it as history, but the fact is, for most people, it is interesting content. And so when you look at it in that way, this whole digital versus history thing is not that difference. Now, one very interesting thing I'll tell you is, even most of the people who have zero interest in history and who say, "Arey, history is so boring" and all, they have that something, that one thing which interests them. Like, for example, I mean, this is purely anecdotal from the readers of Live History. You meet a Bombay High Court lawyer who has zero interest in history, but when you tell him the story of biryani, he's a big biryani lover. He's like completely engrossed with it. Then there is a chartered accountant who's again zero interest in history, but he's very passionate about Chhatrapati Shivaji and the Maratha forts and all. So each one of us, I mean, I've realized each individual has something which it could be Dhyan Chand and the history of hockey, cricket, Ranji. So you see, these are layers and layers and layers. So for a digital audience to consume it, they find it very interesting. It's all about storytelling. How do you tell the story?
A big part of history, of course, it's all about storytelling, and stories interest anyone and everyone. And the way stories are told can really be thrilling, and it can be enthralling as well. But what about dates? Because a big portion or a big part of history is about dates as well. Do you believe that remembering dates in today's digital era, and we have Google for everything now, so are remembering dates also that important, or do you believe that that's something that's not important today, in today's day and age?
Well, I don't think it was ever important. I mean, to be very honest, I mean, as a head of research, a lot of my uh, fact checking, when I do the fact checking, a lot of the time goes in checking dates. But the fact is, I don't think it is important. And so, for example, I have this whole series called the Riyasats, where I tell the story of the princely states to a younger audience, people who are interested in it. And I try avoiding, 1917, 1948, 1757, dates. I just try to give them chronology. So, as it's like a very popular on social media, up chronology samajhiye. So the thing is, the important thing is to understand, the sequence of events. And second thing in history, which sadly in India, which we don't do much, is understanding history in the context of the times. Like, what do I mean by that? Now, for example, when we study, say, the history of Surat, the port of Surat, you will not understand history till you understand what was happening in Yemen at the time, because Yemen, Surat is closer to Yemen than perhaps it is to Delhi. Or, for example, when we talk about the Central Asian invasions, you will not understand these Central Asian invasions and what was happening at that time without understanding what was happening in Central Asia. So, I think more than the dates and this year and that year, it is important to understand the context of the time. So that's how you get the flavor of, or the better understanding of what was happening at the time.
Absolutely. I think that is going to put so many issues at ease as far as folks who are afraid of these dates are concerned, because a big portion of history, or why people are a little averse to history, is about the dates. Now, interestingly, you spoke about Surat, you spoke about Gujarat, and you spoke about timing as well. If you look at our books, if you look at our texts, our history is well documented. Whether rightly or wrongly is another debatable topic. We'll get to, how it has been interpreted and who has written this history maybe a little later on in the program. But till about 1947, it's all well documented, and you have books and you have everything else. But post 1947, say to about 2010, there is very little information in documented form as far as history is concerned. Do we not consider it as history, or what is it really?
So, this is one of the interesting paradoxes of Indian history, that everything stops at 1947. And after that, sadly, like you see a lot of the problem with history, if you actually see right now, the university of WhatsApp and what is being shared on, say, Jawaharlal Nehru, or a lot of other things, comes from this problem that our history stops at 1947. And to understand what is happening today, what are the farmer protests of Punjab, or in what is happening in Maharashtra, Kerala, the Mizoram and Assam, you will not understand it till you don't understand what's happening in the 650s, 60s, 70s. So it is very important to understand it. But you see, now we live in a very different age. We live in the internet age, where anybody who wants knowledge can just go on this wonderful medium called Google and do a little effort, and you get all of it. Like, see, you and I come from a different generation. We also remember the pre-internet, pre-Google times, where when I started doing my history research, as just out of passion, I remember sitting in library books, and they used to not even be online catalogs. We used to have those horrible, those chits, and then look at each book. Isme kuch hai kya? Then you close it. Then you go to the book number 2, book number 3,
fold pages.
Yes.
Even bookmarks weren't so easily available. Bookmarks were, came much later.
So that is the irony. The fact is, the biggest irony of the present day is that so much of authentic information is available online. Like, for example, I'll give you India Today articles. Like, every article from, I think, when it started, I think it was late 1970, 78 or 79, is available. All you have to do is go on the internet and read it. You will know about the caste violence in Bihar, or the Khalistani insurgency in Punjab. So it is all available. So we don't have to be too textbook dependent. There are on YouTube videos, like some amazing videos. When I was doing research on Kashmir and the Article 370 and all, it is amazing what is available on YouTube, original videos of Dr. Ambedkar and his perspectives and all. So this whole history stopping at 1947 has created its own set of problems. But anybody who wants to know history, internet is there, it is available.
But that, Akshay, is very interest driven, isn't it? Because see, if you're interested in it, you can go online and you can read about it and you can research about it. Don't you think this should be part of the curriculum as well, so that students too, because you raise some very important issues about, the Mizo-Assam conflict, or for that matter, the farm laws. So shouldn't students know about, the history of MSP, how it started, what were the circumstances that ensured that we brought in this whole issue of MSP? It should be part of the curriculum. At least I would argue that it should be a part of the curriculum, so that it is more channelized.
But you see, the thing is, right now in India, there is a lot of debate happening about history textbooks. But you see, the fundamental problem is our education system, or even the parents, are so PCM oriented, because you see, you finish your studies, and you give your IIT exams and your medical exams and all. So history is like the social sciences, history, geography, and those in languages, they are not given importance. So my perspective is, even if you have the best and the most well designed history book with a lot of different dynasties, a lot of different perspectives and all. They are just going to rote learn it. I mean, in the end, if you see most of the students today, they are given notes by their teachers on history, on what happened in the world wars and the Indian freedom movement, and the 5 points of the non-cooperation movement, and the 5 causes of the Battle of Plassey and all. I mean, in the end, they are just going to rote learn it. I mean, to share with you, the fact is, the funny part is, with all my passion for history, I never got good marks in school in history, because I used to read a lot of other books, and my teachers used to put all red marks, because a lot of it was not there in the textbooks. So I feel that you see, this whole focus on the textbooks has to shift on focus on teaching. How our method of teaching, our method of understanding history, like if we are teaching about a particular dynasty, or about even after the post 1947 period, I mean, are we using audio visual aids? Are we taking them on field trips? And this whole education it does not stop with the schools and the teachers. I mean, it's the parents. I mean, if you're living in Delhi, how many parents take their children to Purana Killa, to Lal Killa, to Shah Jahan, to Tughlaqabad, a lot of other things. So in the end, I think our knowledge, I mean, our conception of concept of knowledge has to go beyond textbooks.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you on that. I mean, because learning starts at home, and it is the parents' duty initially to teach the children and, pique their interest. And then learning will be fun, and the kids can take that particular aspect forward. But to what extent we can do it on a large scale is something that we'll have to see, especially at a time when both parents are working. We are living in nuclear families as well. That tends to become a challenge, but let's hope that we move in that direction eventually, because there are many people actually working towards that goal, and I hope that they are successful at some point in time. And hopefully the new national education policy also will lead us in that direction. But let me take another aspect forward with you, Akshay. You spoke about how several of these things are not there in the textbooks. We'll have to change the textbooks. So this brings me to another aspect of how there are different interpretations really of historical events, and history is told differently by different sets of people. Now, for someone who wants to know what exactly has happened, what is his or her option? How do you know the truth?
You see, now, we live in the most extraordinary times where people believe what they want to believe. But what I tell them is, again, coming to the internet as a medium, everything is available on the internet. Everything is available online. You just need a little effort, like read 5 books, read 10 articles, and make up your minds. You see, this comes to critical thinking. Like, you see, the problem in India is, we are, in our education system, or way we are taught, is that whatever the book says is the truth. But you see, what happens is, when you read 10 different books and then think and then have your own interpretations, that is when you start understanding the situations of how things were, how things are, what was happening, what is not happening. So my request generally, you see, what happens is, when I make videos on YouTube, and when I say some things, there is obviously a lot of trolling comments also, because people say this is not correct and that is not correct. And also, in a lot of my videos, I say, you know what, everything is available on the internet. Take some time out, do a little bit of research. You don't have to believe what I am saying. I mean, if you disagree with me, I'm fine, but find out for yourself what was happening. Again, you see, the problem is, now this whole Aryan invasion theory, or Taj Mahal was the whole controversy around that. Or my favorite and the most funniest is about the aliens under the Padmanabha Swami temple, and that whole, there are videos with millions of views around that. I'm like, it's fine, just do a little bit of research. Like, there are these stories about how these temples were built by aliens, but no, these were very hardworking Indian sculptors who built these amazing sculptors. And now in 2021, 22, you're going to tell me that only alien technology can make them. So open your mind, think, and think. I mean, that is the only solution to this.
Is there a correlation? Can we draw some kind of correlation between history and science? Because science is said to be a factual subject, and people tend to believe science and mathematics far more easily than, say, for instance, history. And can the factual evidence be corroborated in any way?
You see, the thing, I mean, the problem uniquely with India is that we have no concept of preservation of documents. I mean, ancient times, medieval times, leave it. Even you see, like, for example, my great-grandfather's papers, your great-grandfather's papers. I mean, in England, all these family documents, archives, records for like last 700 years, everything is documented in papers. But our own, if you see our own family histories, these are all oral traditions which have been passed down about what happened, what did not happen. So to put those European standards to Indian context is not right. Like, see, for example, there is this whole controversy about how old the Vedas are, or many things around that. But my point is, Vedas, even though they are dated to a particular date, the fact is they are a culmination of oral transmission for like centuries and centuries and centuries. So I don't see the point of getting into this whole debate about how old Ramayana is, how old Mahabharata is, and I mean, these are very silly debates. So in Indian context, I wouldn't say it is a science, but it is obviously open to interpretation, and it should be fine. Like, see, I'll give you a good example. It's about, I live in Maharashtra, and where you see the Marathas and under Bajirao and the expansion of the Maratha Empire is seen as a source of great pride. But when I went to Bundelkhand and when I went to Bengal or even in Rajasthan, they look at the Maratha quote invasions in a very different way. So our way of looking at something from Bombay and their way of looking at the same event is very different. So I don't think there is one version of history, but I think we should just we should just accept what happened during those times. I mean, another unique problem in India is we don't accept things are black and white, because history is always gray. I mean, there's again this controversy about Haldi Ghati, or I mean, innumerable Indian controversies about history which never stop. But things are gray. I mean, things are not black or white.
Absolutely. And Akshay, before I let you go, one final question. Let's talk about why history is important.
History is important to interpret the situation around you. What is going on? Say, for example, the whole thing about Article 370 in Kashmir, or what is happening in Assam, Mizoram, the farmer protests in Punjab, or the whole political situation in Karnataka. It has its threads 200, 300 years, into communities, castes, how things have shaped up and all. And if you have to understand what is happening around you better, you need to understand history. And one last thing is that I mean, since there are a lot of students who watch you, a lot of people who want to go into public services who watch you, I would like to say that in my experience in starting Live History India, it is these students who become and who study history for preparation of their exams, who are the ones who later on go to play a pivotal role in preserving Indian history. Like, see, from my own example, I'll tell you, for example, district collectors, IAS officers, IPS officers. I mean, these are the ones even today, not more than the archaeologists and all, because they have the power, they are on the ground, they are the ones who are spearheading restoration work, who are granting funds to for historical research, for granting funds for preservation of archives, and I think that is a very commendable thing. So I would like to really encourage that, I mean, the students who are watching this, that the preservation of history is in your hands, preservation of our culture is in your hands. So please don't forget that.
Absolutely. Akshay, I know we didn't touch upon a subject of your choice, princely states, and that is something that I'd like to talk to you about probably at another time, because I want to give it one whole session, because there's so much to talk about there. History is such a subject that you can start talking and can never stop. That's the beauty of history. But really a pleasure having you on the program. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your views with us.
Thank you, Frank. It was a pleasure.
Well, before I go, once again, I would like to thank you for your continued support. For those of you who haven't already subscribed, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and then all notifications. Do subscribe to our newsletter as well to get some incisive content. The Bharata First team runs a big picture quiz. Please participate by going through the description in big picture videos. If you like our content, please contribute to keep it alive. The links are in the description. Let me know, or let me take this opportunity to inform you about Bharata First Knowledge Center, an initiative that will help each one of you in your competitive exams and transform the way you learn. Go to kc.bharatafirst.com for more details and register now. Experience a whole new way of gaining knowledge through the Knowledge Center. All this information, along with some must-see recommendations, are in the description of the video. Please go through it. That's it from me. See you again next time.